Welcome to our channel, where real discipline meets unforgettable stories. If you love gripping tales filled with courage, tradition, and unexpected twists, you're in the right place. Before we dive in, let us know in the comments where in the world you're watching from. We love seeing how far these stories reach. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and tap the bell icon, because tomorrow at this exact time, we'll bring you another powerful story that you won't want to miss. Now, sit back, relax, and get ready for a moment that tested silence, tradition, and authority. She grabbed a royal guard's sword. What happened next shocked everyone. Karen Whitmore was the kind of woman who moved through the world as if it owed her something. At 45 years old, with sun-kissed skin, platinum blonde highlights, and a designer wardrobe that screamed money louder than words ever could, she had perfected the art of being noticed. That morning, she stood at the edge of Buckingham Palace, her 4-inch heels clicking with sharp precision against the cobblestone path. The late morning sun glinted off her oversized sunglasses and the gold charms on her designer handbag. With one manicured hand on her hip, she scanned the grounds like a CEO evaluating a new asset. She let out a dramatic sigh, loud enough for nearby tourists to hear. "Another glorified statue," she muttered, eyes fixed on the Queen's Guard ahead. "All of this tradition, and for what? We pay for this nonsense." Her voice carried with the kind of entitlement that doesn't ask for attention, it demands it. Families edged out of her way instinctively, the kind of instinct animals have when sensing an approaching storm. She relished it. To Karen, the guard was nothing more than a mannequin dressed in red, a photo op, a paid actor. She had already caused a scene at the Tower of London earlier that day, and Westminster Abbey hadn't fared much better. Now, the palace was her final act, and she was determined to leave a lasting impression. "This is why the world laughs at us," she scoffed to a group of American tourists nearby, who exchanged uneasy glances. "These so-called guards are public servants, funded by our tax dollars, and they don't even acknowledge the people they serve." Her voice cut through the air, slicing through the peaceful morning like a hot blade. She paced forward, her heels ticking like a metronome of tension, her lips curled in that familiar smirk, half amusement, half contempt. "I'll show everyone what a real public confrontation looks like," she whispered, mostly to herself, as if rehearsing a performance. Somewhere in the crowd, a retired military officer squinted in her direction, sensing trouble. But Karen was far too locked into her own show to notice. The tourists, the history, the uniform, none of it mattered to her. In her mind, this was her palace, her stage, and the silent guard ahead, just another extra in her self-appointed spotlight. Karen's performance had barely begun, but already heads were turning. The murmur of tourist chatter faded as her voice rose with theatrical flair. "This is all for show," she declared, spinning toward the crowd like she was delivering a Broadway monologue. Her heels clicked with precision, her diamond-studded watch catching the sunlight as she pointed toward the motionless guard. "Taxpayers pay for this parade of silence, and he won't even blink?" A few feet away, Captain Mark Dwyer, a 62-year-old retired U.S. Army officer visiting London with his wife, lowered his sunglasses. His instincts, sharpened by decades of military service, were on high alert. He'd seen this before, escalation disguised as entitlement. His hand drifted to the lapel of his jacket, where a small silver pin from his deployment in Iraq glinted softly. "Something's off," he muttered, watching Karen with narrowed eyes. The crowd began to shift. Parents ushered their children a step back, and the nearby tour guide, Grace Porter, paused her explanation about the palace's history. Her voice trailed off mid-sentence as she noticed Karen circling the guard like a predator sizing up its prey. Karen wasn't just angry, she was baiting him. "Let me guess," Karen said loudly, her voice dripping with mockery. "You're not allowed to talk, right? Just stand there looking important while real people foot the bill?" She turned to a group of American tourists nearby. "You folks getting this? This is how royalty treats the public." Her words, calculated and sharp, sliced through the air. But the guard remained still, his posture perfect, his eyes fixed ahead. His stillness wasn't weakness. It was discipline. Captain Dwyer recognized it instantly. The rigid jaw, the squared shoulders, the faint twitch in the fingers wrapped around the ceremonial rifle. He'd seen that kind of control before. In Kandahar, in Fallujah, in men trained not to react, no matter how badly they were provoked. Karen stepped even closer, emboldened by the lack of response. "It's all fake," she hissed. "This costume, this act, this whole charade." She was 2 feet from the guard now, and the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Mark shifted his stance, just slightly. He didn't know what was about to happen, but he knew one thing for sure. It wouldn't be nothing. Karen's breath quickened as she closed the final distance, her heels scraping sharply against the palace stone. The guard stood like a statue, silent, unreadable, utterly unfazed. That only fueled her fire. To her, this wasn't just a confrontation anymore. It was a challenge, a test of who really held the power. "This silence?" she sneered, standing barely a foot away. "It's not dignity, it's arrogance." Her voice had dropped to a low, contemptuous whisper, but the venom in it could be felt across the square. "You think that uniform makes you untouchable?" She reached into her handbag, pulling out her phone with a flourish. "Smile for the camera, soldier boy," she said. "Let's show the world how royalty treats the people who pay their salaries." But then her eyes flicked to the polished ceremonial sword hanging at his side, a glint of steel in the morning sun. Her lips curled into a smirk. Without a second thought, her manicured fingers reached out and wrapped around the hilt. It was a mistake she would never forget. In a flash, so fast it almost didn't seem real, the guard's gloved hand snapped forward and seized her wrist. The contact was precise, unflinching, and powerful. It wasn't violent, but it wasn't gentle either. It was trained, controlled, the grip of a soldier, not a showpiece. "Ma'am," the guard's voice rang out, clear and commanding, slicing through the tension like a blade. "You are attempting to disarm a member of the armed forces. Release the weapon immediately." The crowd gasped. Several people instinctively stepped back. Phones were raised. Children stared. The tour guide froze, her hand drifting toward her walkie-talkie. Captain Dwyer's posture snapped into attention, every muscle alert. Karen, stunned, stared at the hand gripping her wrist. "How dare you touch me?" she shrieked, her voice no longer smooth or controlled. "I'll have your job. Do you know who I am?" She tried to yank her arm back, but the guard didn't budge. His stance remained solid, his grip steady. Her threats bounced off him like pebbles against steel. "This is assault," she shouted. But in that moment, the roles had reversed. The woman who had entered the scene believing she held all the power now found herself locked in place by something far stronger: duty. Palace security moved swiftly. 2 officers in dark uniforms approached with measured urgency, their radios crackling faintly. The lead officer's eyes locked on the guard's steady grip and Karen's flailing wrist. He didn't need to ask what had happened. He could read the entire scene in seconds. Karen, red-faced and breathless, twisted in place, her designer handbag bouncing against her hip. "This is outrageous," she screamed. "He assaulted me. I was only exercising my rights." But the crowd wasn't buying it. Tourists had backed away, watching in stunned silence. Phones were still rolling. Some whispered. Others just stared, wide-eyed. The moment had shifted. What started as theater now felt dangerously real. Captain Dwyer stepped forward, calm and deliberate. "I witnessed the whole thing," he said to the nearest officer. "The guard acted with restraint. She reached for the weapon." His voice carried the weight of authority, the kind you don't question. Grace, the tour guide, nodded quickly. "Same here. My group saw it. Some of them caught it on video." She motioned toward a cluster of high schoolers, now whispering furiously among themselves. Karen's fury deepened. "You can't film me without permission. This is a violation," she snapped, pointing wildly at the bystanders. "Public space, ma'am," the security officer replied calmly, his tone neutral but firm. "And what they filmed may very well end up as evidence." The guard, still holding her wrist, finally released her arm with the same precision he'd used to restrain her. Karen stumbled back a step, her heels wobbling against the uneven stone. Her silk blouse was now wrinkled, her carefully curated image unraveling with every breath. "This isn't over," she hissed, brushing her hair from her face. "I know people. I'll sue every last one of you. Parliament will hear about this." But the crowd had turned. The same eyes that once watched her with idle curiosity now viewed her with quiet judgment. She wasn't the hero of this story anymore. One security officer retrieved her scattered belongings, handing her the designer phone she dropped. "You'll need to come with us, ma'am," he said evenly. "We'll take your statement at the security office." As they began walking her away, Karen's voice echoed across the courtyard, half threat, half desperation. But the guard? He had already returned to his post, eyes forward, shoulders square, like nothing ever happened. Karen's voice trailed off behind her as security led her across the courtyard, her designer heels scraping loudly against the ancient stone. Her threats still flew, promises of lawsuits, media scandals, and political connections, but they were growing weaker with every step, swallowed by the vastness of the palace grounds. The further she moved from the crowd, the more powerless she seemed. Back at the scene, the atmosphere slowly began to shift. The tension that had crackled moments earlier gave way to a new stillness, not one of discomfort, but of quiet reverence. The Queen's Guard, now once again at his post, resumed his position with flawless precision, his stance unchanged, his expression calm. He hadn't said another word. He didn't need to. Captain Dwyer lingered for a moment, watching the soldier with the eyes of a man who had seen his share of combat and command. There was a silent understanding between them, an unspoken acknowledgement of discipline, professionalism, and control under pressure. He gave a small nod of approval and murmured to no one in particular, "By the book. That's exactly how we trained him." Tourists began to move again, but now with a visible shift in attitude. Cameras were still out, but the playful, mocking tone some had carried earlier was gone, replaced instead by something else: respect. Parents whispered reminders to their children about behavior. School teachers gathered their students with a little more care. And the guide, Grace, resumed her tour, but with a new tone in her voice. These guards, she told her group, are not actors. They're not here for entertainment. They are active duty soldiers tasked with protecting this historic site, this tradition, and everyone around it. What you just witnessed was not a performance. That was real discipline, real restraint, and real authority. Back inside the palace security office, Karen's voice still echoed, less confident now, increasingly defensive. Her complaints were being recorded, her statements taken, but with dozens of witnesses and multiple videos from the scene, her version of events was already falling apart. Out in the courtyard, the sun had reached its peak, casting long shadows once more, but the guard remained unmoved, steady as stone. Around him, order had returned. And for everyone who had witnessed it, one truth now stood taller than any statue. Authority doesn't shout, it stands. And when necessary, it acts. We'd love to hear your thoughts on what happened in today's story. Do you think the guard acted appropriately in the face of provocation? Was Karen simply out of line? Or do you believe she had a point, however poorly delivered? Let us know in the comments below. Incidents like these spark real conversations about authority, tradition, and how we treat those who serve in silence. Some may say these guards are just for show, but as we've seen today, their training, discipline, and sense of duty are anything but ceremonial. Have you ever witnessed something similar during your travels, where someone crossed the line in the name of rights or accountability? Or maybe you've served in the military or know someone who has. What's your take on how the guard handled the situation? Your perspective matters, and we want this to be a space where respectful, thought-provoking dialogue can happen. So drop a comment, share your view, and don't forget to tell us where in the world you're watching from. We love seeing this community grow across borders and cultures. And remember, tomorrow at this same time, we'll be back with another powerful story that will challenge how you see the world around you.